Dimitri's here. Dimitri, welcome to the show, man. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were here. I didn't even look up.
Hey, listen, I was really enjoying what you were saying, so there's no worries. If you want to continue, I'm happy to sit back and wait until you're done. Because
no, I'm sorry.
What you're saying is very, so important and so true.
It angers me. Like I was showing people this video. There are two videos. One, okay, I guess it requires a little bit of explanation. We've got rid of their food programs. So all of these people who are on the ground distributing food, those people are gone. They're no longer there. And so what they decided was to set up pens and basically concentration camps, places that look like this. I mean, keep in mind, these people are in the middle of the desert. And they're using starvation in order to get these people to come here. These are camps. And these are American mercenaries. And this guy thinks it's funny. I don't know what he's doing, putting up a love sign. But this is some Nazi shit. And to make it even worse, you go to this clip where now they're firing on people who are starving. And if it didn't get even more sinister, what Israel has decided to do is we can make a profit off of starving people. So the food that we'll distribute will come from Israel. You can see Hebrew names on some of the boxes of aid that are being supplied, with people going through this humiliating process to just get food. It's disgusting. And we are paying for it. We're paying for it. Give me a take on that. I didn't bring you on for this one, but give me a take on it.
This was preceded, this horror show that you just showed us, by the resignation of the head of this so-called humanitarian organization.
Yes.
Who said, it's quite interesting because one would have thought that the genocidal entity would do a better job of choosing somebody better in the sense that they, the person would be compliant, would, do Israel's bidding. That's typically what Israel does in these situations. But somehow, it's just a level. It's we often talk about the evil of this regime, as we obviously should, but also the stunning level of incompetence. This person turned out to have apparently a conscience.
Yeah.
And said, I can't do this job consistently with basic, principles of independence and humanity and so forth, basic principles of the delivery of humanitarian aid, and resign. And of course, undeterred, the genocidal entity continued with its scheme. And as you saw, it basically evolved into a debacle yesterday, as I understand, because the people, after being made to wait in the blazing sun, these starving Palestinians, certainly hundreds if not thousands of them, herded like cattle. My God, in the blazing sun, it's hot in Palestine this time of year. Yeah. They understandably lost their patience. It doesn't appear, there's no evidence whatsoever that they were armed, but they lost their patience and they broke out of this, cattle, whatever you want to call it. And I've read reports that these mercenaries, apparently not the toughest of mercenaries, fled the scene. And so at that point, it was essentially chaos, and Israel, its military, did what it always does. It started firing on civilians, or at least in their general vicinity. I just, every day something happens, Jamal, that causes me to be even more shocked than the day before about the willingness of Western governments to tolerate what we're seeing. I can't believe it. I mean, Canada, France, and the UK, as I've been reporting on my channel for a week relentlessly, said on May 19th that if Israel doesn't deliver sufficient humanitarian aid to the Palestinians and stop settlement expansion, we are going to impose targeted sanctions and concrete actions on Israel. It would take us hours to recount all the atrocities that Israel has committed just since then. For example, massacring 9 out of 10 children of a Palestinian doctor, bombing a school, killing 36 people sheltering there, burning children alive. I could go on and on. I know you know how horrible it's been. What have they done? Nothing. They've done nothing. The most significant thing that any of those three governments did was Keir Starmer, David Lammy, as George Galloway likes to call him, Britain's Idi Amin, stood up in Parliament and with a lot of drama said, we're suspending trade talks with Israel. Well, Israel issued a statement, its foreign ministry, immediately after that, just basically heaping scorn on the so-called punishment that the UK had inflicted, saying, actually, this government wasn't even in trade talks with us. So,
Right.
we're just going to continue doing what we're doing. They just declared it right out. So what are they waiting for, Jamarl? What are they waiting for? How many people? Do they need 1 million dead? Do they need 1.5 million dead? Is there a number at which they will actually use this formidable sanctions power that they've been deploying against other states that have done far less than Israel? Or is there no number? I'm starting to think there's no number. I'm starting to think these people have an unlimited tolerance for Israel's depravity.
Dimitri, I didn't believe a word that was coming out of Europe on this. I didn't believe a word of it. From my point of view, they were doing this purely in order to create. Oh, 1 second. From my point of view, they were doing this purely to create separation between Israel while Israel goes through with the ethnic cleansing of Gaza, or while Israel goes through its strikes against Iran. I didn't take for one moment anything that was coming out of Europe to be honest or legit. I just didn't. I've watched this for what, nearly 2 years? And we've watched depravity every day for that 2 years. And at no point did Europe say anything. And my thing was like, okay, so why are they talking now? Meaning, I suspect that Europe is in on some plan that the US and Israel has cooked up. And in the same way that all of the stuff about Trump and Netanyahu are at odds over Iran, you have these European governments who want to say, well, we didn't have anything to do with that. 2 minutes ago, we said that we didn't like the fact that they were starving people. And the buzzword is always a two-state solution, which tells me they're not being serious. So, no, and make your point clear. Like, we watched them literally burning kids alive. I mean, like, again, this is some stuff that the Nazis would have been like, wow, that's pretty impressive. That's a little girl who's trying to get out to school where classmates were burned alive. From my understanding, she made it out alive. Who knows the damage that she's encountered in that. And then they're going to put out these articles about Israelis suffering PTSD. What the fuck do I care? I don't care. It's like, oh, a Nazi stumped his toe. Okay, fair enough. I guess my thing is, why do you think the European capitals are putting this out from your point of view? Like, if it's not, look, like I told you, there's nothing in me believe that they care. From their point of view, Israel is their colony, every bit as much as colonies in Africa, every bit as much as, Burkina Faso or the Congo or any of these other places where European colonies, that's their colony. White European atheists started it. And many Europeans and Americans have now gone to Israel in order to occupy land that belonged to Palestinians. And so from Europe's point of view, we like the fact that we have what we consider to be an ally in the middle of the Middle East. We don't want to change that fact. We accept that there's going to be settler colonialism stuff, just like it was in America, where we got rid of the Native Americans, put them in pens, put them in reservations. They understand the process because they did the process themselves, either in America or, for that matter, in Africa. So I just look at it as this is image management, not reality. For one, give me your take on that. And two, if I'm right, why do you think they're coming up now saying, hey, even though you've been starving for over a year, we think the starvation now is too bad, too much?
It's completely image management. It's so obvious that it's image management. I'm sick and tired of reading reports about being on the verge of a ceasefire agreement and Donald Trump is putting pressure on Netanyahu. We saw all this bullshit under the Biden administration, and it led nowhere. They're continuing the same damn kabuki theater. They're all wringing their hands and saying Israel's a sovereign state. And man, sometimes it has to use unsavory tactics, but it lives in a really tough neighborhood. And all these bad actors want to wipe it out. So even though we don't like it, we have a fundamental obligation to protect this sanctuary for the Jewish people, which is exactly what it wasn't ever intended to be. It was intended to be the Anglo-American era empire's unsinkable aircraft carrier. That's what it was intended to be. And I believe that they want Israel to complete the genocide. The European governments, Canadian government, America. What other conclusion can you draw, Jamal? They keep pumping weapons into this entity, no matter what it does. No matter what they could shoot, they could shoot dead a 14-year-old American Palestinian child, no problem. Massacre a bunch of ambulance workers, World Central Kitchen workers, no problem. Burn children alive, no problem. Fire on diplomats in the West Bank, no problem. We give you authority to do whatever you need to do, and the worst you're going to have to confront from us is a little, rhetorical criticism. Now, why are they doing this? They're doing this now. In West Asia, they've always been depraved and genocidal in West Asia, although never to this level and never this obvious in my lifetime, at any rate. Why is it going to this extreme now? It's because they feel power slipping away from their fingers globally. Their power is in decline in Asia. Their power is in decline in Eastern Europe. Their power is in decline in Africa. And as American military planners said, after the Second World War, this is this region, because of its location geographically as the nexus between Africa, Asia, and Europe, and the massive amount of fossil fuel resources upon which the global economy depends for functioning. It is a source of stupendous strategic power. That's what American military planners said, and they said it was the greatest material prize in human history. The elites in the West understand that if they lose control of this, it's over. It's over for Western hegemony. They are going to become no better than, one power seated at the table, or perhaps even a junior partner in terms of the determination of global affairs. And they just can't stomach that. They can't stomach not being the dominant power of the world as they have been for 500-600 years. So they're prepared at this stage to do anything, whatever it takes to maintain their grip on power. And I think they're convinced that this region is the last gasp for them. They can't let it go, so they have to destroy any and all resistance to Western hegemony. And they're prepared to do whatever it takes.
Oh, that's such a good point. And that diverts me into a different area because I think it's a really good point. I've what is it called? The Elysian Gap. I think it's called the Elysian Gap. I always get the word wrong. But effectively, when there's a rising power versus a let's say a established power, that it creates friction, and that friction eventually sparks war. And for the longest time, I thought this was dealing with individual countries, but you pointed out the West as a whole. And, I was having this conversation where I was asking Karin Kanizer to come on to the show, and she asked me why. And I was like, why is Europe acting this way? Like, they are destroying their own elections. They're obviously losing the war in Ukraine, and yet they keep doubling down on it. They're destroying their own communities. Any notion of this, quote, liberal order has effectively been collapsing under the bureaucracy of the EU. And in many respects, especially under the Biden administration, Biden was pushing them to do it. It's like, hey, I know you guys rely on that cheap gas, but we need you to get rid of it. Okay. Then their economies would tank, and they would somehow blame Russia, say Russia's using energy war. It's like, you passed sanctions. What do you mean we're using energy warfare? I guess my point is, I think you're answering the question for me. This gap is not between, let's say, the US and China, even though it might be on some level. It's between the West versus the rising powers of, let's say, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, the BRICS nations, meaning it's between the West, which is 14% of the globe, versus the rest of the globe. And they feel that power edging away, even in an economic sense and a military sense, with Russia just beating the hell out of Ukraine, despite all of NATO putting their weapons and money into it. Is that the way you see it? Like, give me your take on it. I know this is blowing things out to a larger geopolitical context, but I am curious on your take, because that seems to be where the crisis point is happening. And in your point, Gaza might be one of the focal points of that, of the Middle East.
Yeah, I view Gaza as the front line in a war between Western elites and the rest of the world. One place, I'm sure you would agree with me, Jamal, that I don't think you mentioned in that summary was Africa. You know, there are, whatever you may think of them, people who are not willing to be vassals of the United States rising to power in Africa, the most notable example being Ibrahim Traore in Burkina Faso. But he's not alone. He's just perhaps the most prominent of the actors. So even in Africa, which they've completely and utterly ravaged and devastated in the most disgusting way for centuries, you now see, a rise of true anti-colonial fervor and independence. And this horrifies them. And so I think that at the end of the day, they're going to lose this battle. Their power is in terminal decline. The challenge we confront, people of conscience living in the West and the non-Western world, is how do we manage their decline without all of humanity being wiped out, because they have the capacity, as we can see, as we all know, to destroy the conditions for civilized life on Earth. And evidently, they're willing to do it. And nothing horrifies me more, in fact, than the idea that Israel, this insane, genocidal, psychopathic state, has enough nuclear weapons reportedly to actually cause a nuclear winter, which could kill up to billions of people, plunging the global food system into catastrophic decline. That should scare the hell out of people. But at the end of the day, that's the challenge we confront. How do we manage their decline without destroying all of humanity? Because it's happening, and they're going to do whatever it takes to stop it.